Tell me your name again, what your title is, and
My,
what you do.
my name is Curtis Ostosh. I'm the pastor of Harvest Time Christian Fellowship here in Warren, Michigan.
How long have you been pastoring?
This is my 15th year pastoring Harvest Time.
You're pastoring in the city of Warren.
Yes.
How do you like pastoring the people of Warren?
It's wonderful. At first I wasn't excited about coming to Warren, but after being here for a number of years and being prompted to come here, that's a whole other story. I'm really happy and satisfied to be part of the Warren community.
Okay. Why did you start pastoring?
I went to Bible school and I had a previous vocation, did that for 28 years. I felt the calling of God even as a little kid on my life. Got sidetracked with a career, and then the opportunity presented itself, and decided that I wanted to dedicate the rest of my life to full-time pastoring.
So we're just getting out of the Easter holiday,
Mm-hmm.
just celebrating Resurrection Sunday.
Yes.
So we are talking now about forgiveness. Tell us what, as a pastor, what forgiveness means to you.
Forgiveness is letting go of the emotional baggage that we tend to carry with other people. Unforgiveness, it's probably a little easier to understand forgiveness if I tell you what unforgiveness is. Unforgiveness is almost like an acid. It's an emotion, it's rage, it's anger, it's hurt, it's pains that we carry, and by not forgiving someone, we carry unforgiveness. And if you look at it from the perspective of acid, the container that holds acid is the one that's destroyed. So when we have unforgiveness, all these emotional things and baggage that we carry, it hurts us more than it hurts the other person that we think it's directed towards. So we're commanded in Scripture to forgive, and that's an important principle of Christian living. But it frees us as a person when we extend forgiveness to somebody that has hurt us, caused us pain, or did something to us that is less than acceptable.
What do you think, is there a timeline or a time frame for forgiveness, do you believe?
I don't know that there's a timeline, but frequently I deal with people in ministerial capacity. They still have angst and anger against someone else, and they've even forgotten what the issue was. So people tend to just hold on to things, and to hold on to feelings and emotions and hurts and slights and pain and problems from the past. But there isn't really a time frame, but I highly recommend as soon as you can, as fast as you can, to forgive someone else. And oftentimes, sometimes people hold on to unforgiveness so long, the other party even passes away, and they still have troubled feelings, and then they don't even know how to deal with it because the other person's not even in this world anymore. And so, as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, it's always the best advice to extend forgiveness expeditiously.
Piggyback on what you just said, when you said that sometimes we'll hold a grudge for so long that another person may even pass on. Who do you think the forgiveness benefits the most? The other person or the person that's holding the issue?
Well, oftentimes, the other person may still have issues on the other side of the equation. But the issue is, it frees you up, because once you forgive someone, you let it go. And we live in this world of hyper offense and hypersensitivity to everything. And if we choose not to be offended, if we choose not to take the offense, because actually when we extend unforgiveness, that other person has a hold on us. So when we extend forgiveness, it gives us freedom, it gives us peace of mind. And in our faith tradition, Jesus is the leader of our faith tradition, and he's known as the Prince of Peace. And the Bible tells us, even in the Old Testament, that he whose mind is stayed on him, on God, he will keep them in perfect peace. So if you want peace in your life, if you want sanity in your mind, forgiveness is probably one of the best prescriptions that I can offer.
Do you feel that even that unforgiveness can even affect us physically?
Oh, definitely. As human beings, we're psychosomatic, so our mind controls our bodies, and our bodies have a part in our mind. So they work together, they work in concert together. And so unforgiveness can cause stomach upset, it can cause worry, it can cause sleeplessness, it can cause a whole plethora of different human conditions that we don't even think about. And so we have to extend forgiveness. I received advice upon taking the pastoral responsibilities that I have now. One of the founding pastors of our church told me, you'll have 5, 10, 20, 50, or maybe 100 reasons a day to be offended. He says, don't take the offense. Because offenses and unforgiveness are very similar. They keep us in bondage. If we want freedom, the freedom that the gospel offers, the freedom that Christ offers, we have to let things go and not pick them up again, but let them go permanently and trust God. Trust God, because God says, if you want to be forgiven, you have to forgive. So if we want even forgiveness from God, we have to extend forgiveness to our fellow human beings. There's no reason to hold unforgiveness.
Piggyback on something you said. So do you believe that offense is a choice?
Offenses are going to come at you whether you like it or not. I mean, you can choose to buy into that offense, or you can choose to let it go. I mean, if you want peace in your life, you have to rise up above all the little pettiness, all the little things. You can be offended easily. You can be offended over something somebody says. It might not even be intentional, but it builds and builds and builds if we just don't let it go. We have to figure out how to let go of offenses. I think often of the golden rule in the Gospel of Matthew. I believe it's chapter 7, verse 12. The golden rule says to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I think it's a core principle and a foundational principle of our Christian faith, the golden rule, treat other people as you would want to be treated. But, we want mercy to come our way. Oftentimes, we don't want to extend mercy. And that's a huge problem for human beings. We don't extend mercy as fast as we expect mercy to come back to us. But if we applied the golden rule, our lives would be much better, because if I treated my brother, my sister, my wife, my husband, my children, people in my sphere of influence, people that I work with, if I treated them with the golden rule, if I treated them the way I wanted to be treated, how much better our life would be. And it's not just a Christian principle. Actually, the golden rule, it's an ethical principle and a moral principle that applies to people that aren't even of the Christian faith.
What would you say are some steps that individuals could take to start the process of forgiveness?
I think healthy introspection is probably one of the important things. Because sometimes, we really just let unforgiveness and things that happen to us, we let them get under our skin. We let them rent space in our head. And the more we think about something, the more that thought, the more that idea takes on energy. It takes on space that we otherwise could use in productive ways. But I'm sure you know as well as I do, either positive or negative things, the more energy we give to it, the more it takes a predominant space in our minds. And oftentimes, unforgiveness just takes over, because not only does it create emotions like anger and bitterness and hatred, but then we want to act out on it. I want to get back at this person. I want to give them a bigger dose back to them than what they did to me, because the score, this doesn't seem fair. When we understand that life isn't fair, life gets much better. Not everybody's going to extend the golden rule to us. Not everybody's going to treat us the way we want to be treated. But if we use the idea of the golden rule and treat other people more kindly, with gentleness, kind words, kind actions, kind deeds, we'll notice that comes back to us. Another principle that's in the Bible is the principle of sowing and reaping. We reap what we sow, and if we sow bitterness, if we sow hatred, if we sow anger, that comes back to us. But if we sow gentleness, and if we sow forgiveness, and if we sow kindness, and if we sow the positive human attributes out, those human attributes will more surround us and fill us and come back to us.
With pastoring people, I know that you probably see a lot of times where a lot of unforgiveness is not even just things that may have happened yesterday or last week, but things that even stem from childhood, or things that parents did, or things that they may not even realize they're dealing with. How can making sure that you revisit those issues on a day-to-day so that we can live a greater life in our future, making sure that our past doesn't affect us?
Well, forgiveness doesn't mean you erase the past, because the past informs the future. It means that you don't give it power to influence you in a way that's negative. So, in order to make better choices, in order to move forward, our past is always going to be there. But when we use the past as a framework in a positive sense by forgiving, it frees us to move forward more positively in a dimension that our relationships will improve. And that's just part of being a positive human being.
Give us an example of a time, and it doesn't have to be anything super huge, but just a simple time when you had to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
Like an example of when you had to practice forgiveness and how you had to do that.
Well, there was things that happened even in my childhood that were unacceptable, and I had to revisit some things early on, even as a Christian, thinking that if I'm going to move forward, I have to let go of this to take possession of that. And oftentimes we deny ourselves positive things because we want to hold on to negative things. And it's almost like you can't have this if you're holding on to that. And when we hold on to things that are unhealthy, unproductive, that we know are going to be disabling, because unforgiveness and bitterness, anger, it can be disabling to the point where, I don't want to talk to this person, or I don't want to talk to that person, or I've been so hurt, I'm just going to shut people out, or I don't want to deal with this or that. I mean, it has so many negative consequences when we really think about it. And, there's things that happened even in my childhood that were painful and difficult. But I learned early on to let things go if I want to move forward. Because you can't have unforgiveness in your heart and make progress. It's either you're gonna hang on to your pains and problems and pressures, or you're gonna let go of those things to make progress.
So if there was a person watching this and they're dealing with unforgiveness, they're dealing with physical ailments because of their unforgiveness, and it's even affecting them mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, what would you tell that person?
Well, most people think that their spiritual life is a do-it-yourself job, but it's not. Sometimes being in a community of other believers where somebody can give you wisdom, where somebody can help you, where somebody can walk with you and show you some things that you might not be able to deal with yourself. That's why even, therapy and some of those things that at one time were thought of as bad. I mean, getting help isn't bad. Having a problem that you carry is worse.
Last but not least, tell us more about your church, and tell us how helping people and how forgiveness can help your family as an individual.
Well, we're a small congregation. Our church was established more than 31 years ago, and there were 3 pastors that came together that wanted to start a church that would be a bright spot in South Warren. And so these pastors ran the church for about 15 years, and they were looking for a successor pastor. And at the time, I wasn't interested in coming to Warren. I was living in another city. I was going to Bible school and had a whole bunch of different plans, but a friend of mine asked me to come and check out this little church in Warren. And so for 6 months I told him no thank you. But finally he just showed up at my house one day and said, "You're going to check out this church whether you want to or not. I'll take you to breakfast and we'll go to this church." And so that's how it all started. He drove me to Harvest Time on 9 Mile Road. We went through and enjoyed the service, and afterwards he asked me what did I think. I told him the same thing I thought before, nothing. You know, I just wasn't engaged at that particular point in time, but at some point in time God just moved in my mind and heart, and you know, I changed my mind after a little bit of time, and it's probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. It's a small community. The south part of Warren has many, many needy people. We have one of the biggest food pantry ministries in all of Macomb County. We give out more food to needy people. In fact, we gave food to more than 5,500 people just last month. And it took Jesus a day to feed 5,000. It took us over a month, but I'm not trying to compete with him. But the love that we have for the community, the connections that we have with the community, we're a outward focused church that wants to share the love of God, the love of Jesus Christ with people. And we do that in our community by going outside the walls, extending what we have and giving it to the community. During COVID, we delivered more than 6,500 food boxes door to door in South Warren, door to door to houses that desperately needed food, that didn't have access to food. And so just showing people the love of God, the love of Jesus, we extend ourselves, we provide people with a whole bunch of things. We have hygiene items and other things, but we're outward focused. We have a small church. It's amazing actually when I think about how much we do with how little. I mean, literally we give out tons and tons of food. I think it's like 145 tons of food a month, literal actual tons of food, blessing many people. We have fresh fruits and vegetables, we have meats, we have dairy products, milk, and of course the staples like canned goods and things like that. But we have lots of things that we can do in our community, and oftentimes you just have to look around. We help with the homeless population in Warren. My wife is on the board of McRest, the homeless shelter in Macomb County. And so we're constantly trying to help people in South Warren. And it's a passion of ours. We're a 7-day-a-week church. We're there at the church every single day. We try to bless as many people as we can. You know, sometimes people get frustrated with us and sometimes people frustrate us as well. But for the most part, you know, we try to be a big blessing to people. And we try to reach out into our community, showing people what true Christianity is really all about. Sharing love, sharing the resources that we have with other people, helping them in a place where they need assistance, they need help. They just might need information, but helping them connect some of the dots that they haven't been able to connect by themselves. Oftentimes it's getting somebody a driver's license or getting somebody a phone. We have a guy that comes to our food ministry and gives out free phones to people that need phones, government phones, and just helping people with some very basic things that they don't know how to acquire themselves, or they are running into a stumbling block that they just need a hand up. Oftentimes we get hugs and happy faces, and people tell us, you know, Pastor, if it wasn't for you, my kids wouldn't eat today. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have food in my house. But it's just not the physical things we provide. Because I tell people, this is God's house, and the Spirit of God, I pray, would travel from our house to your house, that you'd have peace, that you would have the things you need to meet the needs that you have in your house, that God would come alive to you, that His Spirit would come alive to you, that you would understand it's not the church that gave you these things, it's God that provided them for you.
Awesome. That's an awesome way to bridge the gap between the community and the church. Are there ways that the community can get involved with those programs or those different things that you offer in the community?
Well, we always need volunteers. You know, we have a small band of people on our food distribution days. We have about maybe 8 to 10 people that serve more than 300 people, 300 families, which equates to usually about 2.5 times that. So if 300 people come to our pantry, it represents about 700 to 750 total people fed. And so we always need volunteers. We have a very poor congregation, so we're always in the need of money. We buy food to give away, which seems crazy to some people. We also have a number of vehicles. I mean, it takes money to run a church. We have 5 vehicles. We pick up food from more than 40 different establishments. And so we drive around. We use a lot of fuel. You have to have insurance on those vehicles. There's expenses. Our church has no payroll, including myself. Our church is 100% volunteer. We do this because it's a labor of love. And it's what we do because of the God that we serve. And it's all just an extension of God's love to our community. And that's what we do. And in some ways, we've made a big impact in a lot of people's lives because of the ministry that we have over at 9 Mile.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.